United versus Astana in Kazakhstan. Flex is over there at the moment. I think he's got some sort of goat plane that takes in there. I don't know. I joke. But we are taking a very young squad to this game against Astana. So I thought I'd get a trim and take 10 years off myself. But we will be talking about this because you know what? The exciting thing about this is I'm actually going to say that this is really exciting because I would much rather we take this team of young players that many people will not really have seen play before and play them in a game against Astana, who we only beat 1-0 with our first team a couple of months ago, and it's going to be minus 20. It's going to be a real test for them, and it's just an exciting element. This is what it should be. It's a game where we've already qualified out of the group. Play the youth. So I'm very excited about it. We'll go through some of the names. I'm sure you'll be looking over there and going, who's that? I think it's a very clever move by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well. He's a man under pressure. And what better way to take that pressure away than go, look at me, look at my youth, give me time, we'll have a decent team in 2029. But seriously, I think, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer may be many things, but he ain't stupid. And by taking this young team, it's immune to criticism and it makes him immune to criticism as well. But let me just start off with something a little bit topical, then we'll get into the team. Paul Pogba. Two big stories about Paul Pogba today. I'm sure you've seen them. I just want to talk about that and then we'll get into the Astana game and talk about this youth and what they can give us. But two stories. First of all, TalkSport Radio, which is what we have in the UK. Alan Brazil, who used to play for United actually in the 80s, basically saying that he's got a very strong source telling him that Paul Pogba will never play for Manchester United again. And that was coming out in the UK this morning. Then this afternoon we've had a story from The Sun, and it's not even Neil Custis in The Sun, and he is... I know a lot of people don't like the Sun newspaper, but Neil Custis in the Sun would be the person in relation to United I would listen to. It's not Neil Custis in the Sun, and they are saying Pogba's going to be back in 10 days. So you've got Pogba's going to never play for United again. You've got Pogba's going to play in 10 days. You know where the truth is? Smack in the bloody middle. He will play again, but he won't play in 10 days. He'll be playing around Christmas time. That's what I think about Pogba. I've learned that the Glazers want to upgrade Old Trafford and training grounds. Do you think this is true, says Gordon Murray? Probably not. I think it's all about just putting news out there. With the Glazers and Woodward, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm fed up with the lies. I'm fed up with the nonsense. I'm fed up with the stories being leaked to the press. Do it or don't. But I'm going to assume don't until it actually happens. But bringing it back to Pogba, I think... first of all, what I would say about Pogba is I do think his injury's been a little bit weird the way it's been handled, but that could just be the way it's been handled. He just seems to have been out a long time, and I think that allows conspiracy theories, doesn't it? But the reality is, Paul Pogba played 90 minutes injured against Rochdale, and then he played again, I think, another 90 minutes against Arsenal injured. That was the manager's choice to do that, and I'm sure Pogba was part of that, saying he would play. But imagine if Pogba had said, no, my ankle's sore, I'm not going to play against Rochdale or Arsenal. He would have got loads of stick for it. So he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. I do not buy into this story that Paul Pogba's played his last game for Manchester United. How would Manchester United dress that up? Because to believe that, you've got to believe he's going to be sold in January. So how would that work for Ed Woodward? I know he's immune to the sack, but this man, Ed Woodward, basically said to Pogba, you're not leaving in the summer. You're not leaving in the summer. You're staying here this season. He's played 5 competitive league games for Manchester United this season, and it's nearly Christmas. So we don't buy midfielders. We force a player that doesn't want to be here to stay. He hardly plays, and then we sell him in January. That would just be a massive pie in the face of Manchester United and Ed Woodward. So I don't see that happening. I think Pogba will definitely play for Manchester United again. So this story that some sources said that Pogba will never play for United again, I just don't detect there's that sort of moodiness from Pogba. He's a professional at the end of the day. I think he does want to go. I think we'd be lying to yourself if you think he doesn't want to go. But I don't see him not playing for United again. I really, really don't. As for him being back in 10 days, look, it was only yesterday there was an Instagram post with him with some sort of wrapping on his ankle, and people think he's going to be, scoring goals against Man City at the Etihad a week on Saturday. Look, he needs about 2 weeks on the training ground before he plays a game. He might be able to do all the fitness stuff, but he needs to try. He's not played competitive football for 2-3 months. So he needs to be back on the training pitch. And I think from that point, maybe he's 10 days away, but he's not even back on Carrington yet. So Pogba's not going to be back for the Manchester derby. And I think that's what the Sun is trying to say. And it would be... I wouldn't even play him in the Manchester derby. Like, he's in Miami at the moment. Like, it's Wednesday tomorrow. So Pogba flies back. Even if he's back on Thursday, You're going to let him train for 1 week and then play him in the Manchester derby? No, it's stupid. You've got to manage that properly. Hey Mark, I will tell you this right now. We will play 3 centre-backs against Tottenham and we will go toe-to-toe with Man City because Ollie will be scared, says Magic Eye. Toe-to-toe with City? We won't go toe-to-toe with City. We'll play 3 at the back. Mahir is back in training. Mahir is back in training, says Maria Treadwell. I don't know whether that's what that's all about. Mark, you're very naive, says Sid75 Carroll. Pogba will never play for United again. Remember this, United. We do stupid things with Woodward in charge. Well, I'm not naive. My opinion, and that's what it's all about, my opinion is that Pogba will play again. If he doesn't play again, don't worry. I will voice everybody's anger and frustration if he doesn't play again. Don't worry. But at the moment, I think he will play again. Anyway, let's talk about Astana. Let's talk about Manchester United. Flex is on the plane with camera guy Josh. It's minus 20 degrees. We will be bringing you some footage over the next 2 games, which is really exciting. And to be honest, as a channel, we're really excited to be going out there. The fan cams, having a look what it's all about, the snow. And I'm really excited that it's a lot of young players there as well, because there's only... the only experienced players we've taken are Shaw, Grant, and I suppose Twansibi in some ways. Thanks for the contribution, Di Marino. I love that name. So Ramazzini is gone as well. We'll go through the young players in a minute. But the only experienced players we've taken are Shaw, Twansebi, and Grant. And obviously, I think they will all start. And for everybody who's saying Lingard, you can't say a 17-year-old is experienced. So Lingard will, I think, captain Manchester United. So let's look at that team on the left. In fact, let's first of all go through this list of players that are actually going, because this is the thing. So you've got Ramazzini, Mella, Lard, Levitt, Gomez, Greenwood, Mengi, James Garner, Pigmal, Bernard, Kovar, who's a goalkeeper, Chong, Taylor and Lingard. And I just want to say, in relation to Max Taylor, this is a 19-year-old lad who a year ago was having chemotherapy, and here he is a year later going out there with Manchester United, which I think is it's just fantastic. And this is what Manchester United's all about. I mean, I think Liverpool in the Carabao Cup against Villa have got to play a young team because their first team's going to be playing in the World Club Championship somewhere. Fine. But this is a Europa League game, and Manchester United have taken basically a bunch of kids. And I do applaud this. Look, in a glass full of negativity, there might be a nice sip. And this is, we are in a negative place at the moment, but this is a positive. Let's not try and spin it into a negative. It's a positive. I'm going to talk about the result because I do think we will lose. And I'll explain why in a moment. But he could have took Mata. He could have took Rojo. He could have took... Jones and people like that. And, I think with 3 games coming up in 6 days, Villa on Sunday, Wednesday against Spurs and Saturday City, very clever. He's left Carrick and McKenna behind. He's took Nicky Butt with him, Solskjaer, and he's took a young team with him. And that, to me, is a clever management of this situation that we have. So how are we going to line up? What are these players all about? So let's go back. I'm not even on my live comments at the moment. Let me just come back. So There are many ramifications for this, and people are going to have different ideas, but this is my sort of idea. And what I would say is, I always say this, I watched the odd youth game. I actually watched the youth play today at lunchtime. They were 2-0 down to West Brom. They won 3-2. And the only reason I did it was I went onto MUTV to see what time the press conference was for Ollie tomorrow, and it was on. So I watched it. But I don't watch loads of young youth games. I know a lot of people do. Fair play to them. I don't. And the big reason I don't is because it doesn't. I've seen it so many times over the last 30 years. This player's amazing in the youth setup. He's going to be the next this. He's going to be the next that. And you never hear from him. Or they play for the first team and they're not that good. There's been loads over the years. Luke Chadwick was one from my youth who was going to be, the next big thing. And he just never, I think MK Dons with his peak. So for me, I like to hear about them. I like to watch them every now and again. But for me, this on Thursday is what it's all about. Because if they can't do it in the first team, they can't do it. What you do in youth football is very different to what you do at the highest level. So for me, if you don't know some of these players or you do know some of these players, it doesn't really matter because it's all about what they're going to do if they play on Thursday anyway. So this is my predicted 11. Grant's in goal for only his second competitive game for Manchester United. He's not a youth player. We bought him from Stoke. Lard will play at right back. I really like him. I think we brought him in from Charlton when he was about 16. But I like him. over the last couple of years, we've spoken about him a little bit on the United stand, and I do like him, so watch out for him. He should play at right back. Twansebi will obviously play at centre back, and then he's got a choice at centre back. He can go for Bernard, and I think it's Mendy, the other one, but I think he'll go for Deshaun Bernard because he's a little bit older. So I think he will go for him to play at centre back along Twansebi, and of course Twansebi, I mean, he's going to be the senior centre back. Luke Shaw will play at left back because Luke Shaw is our left back. Ramazzini is a good player. A lot of people talking about him, as is Mella. But midfield 3 is interesting. Lingard will play and Lingard will be captain. Whether you like that or not, he's playing at his age group. So Lingard will play, and I think will play 4-2-3-1 with Lingard playing in that number 10 position. The most experienced player on the pitch, the oldest player on the pitch, Lingard, apart from Grant, he will be. So I think he will be captain. The midfield 2, James Garner will definitely start because he's the most experienced midfielder we're taking out there. So Garner will play, and we know a lot about him. And then it's either Dylan Levitt or Ethan Galbraith who will play next to him. Now, Galbraith, Levitt and Garner play for the under-23s a lot together, but obviously Garner's been involved in the first team a lot, so Levitt and Galbraith have played a lot together. I would say that Dylan Levitt is ahead of Galbraith in the queue for a first team start, so I think we will go with Dylan, who has been called up for the Wales squad as well. What I would say about him, very interesting to see how he does. Not as tall or physical as Garner, but can spray a pass, can get around a bit. So I think he will go with him over Galbraith, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got a bit of game time as well, if that's how we're going to play. Max Taylor, somebody saying, where does he play? The lad who obviously had the chemotherapy a year ago. He's a defender as well. There's Mendy, who's a centre-back who could play. I think it's Mendy. I'm thinking about bloody Man City. Mengi. A few people were saying that. And then the front 3, I think, will be players that we know. Garmet, Gomez, Chong and Greenwood, because they're the experienced youth players, so they will surely start. There's Ramazzini and Mella, who are very exciting players themselves. I think they will be on the bench. And there's also another midfielder called Pigmal, who we bought from Spain a couple of years ago. Barcelona wanted him. So this is just a prediction on the left as to how we'll line up. It's a very, very young team, and you're going to see like Bernard or Mengi at centre back with Twansebi, very young teenagers. You're going to see Lard, another teenager, at right back. Again with Garner and Levitt, teenagers again. Lingard, teenager. I'm going to start doing that joke. Gomez, Greenwood, and Chong. So massively, massively inexperienced team. And I think that I'm very excited by it. I'm very excited, but I do think we will lose. I think we will lose because Astana, we only beat Astana 1-0 at Old Trafford, and we're going to their ground. And whilst they're not very good, we're at their ground in minus 20 degrees. I think it's brilliant. I've got to say, I think it's brilliant. What a test for these young lads. I mean, the only thing I saw on Twitter today that I thought, what if United get beat 4 or 5-0? What does that do to the youth? But I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think we will lose because Astana are going to play their first team and they're at home, and these lads have never played together before. I mean, personally, I would like to have seen a McTominay in the midfield or a Pogba in the midfield, and maybe maybe even a Rojo at the back with Twansebi, just to give us a spine of experience. But we've not done that. Ollie is focusing on the Premier League because that's where his job is in scrutiny. This game actually doesn't matter. So I am very excited about it. I don't expect us to win, but in a way, if we do go and win, wow, you can send basically a youth team to go that's never played together before abroad in the Europa League in very cold and intimidating atmosphere, a long plane ride as well, and beat a senior team. What a challenge that is for them. Lingard is the next Darren Gibson, probably already has Everton pyjamas, it says Kill07. Well, Lingard said that as a youngster he was offered Crewe, Liverpool and City, and he chose United. And some people were saying, well, he wouldn't even get into Stoke's team now. Crewe's team now. I've got Gomez on the right, but you could swap Gomez with Chong. Yeah, that's just a bit of an error, to be honest with you. Ethan Hamilton, I think, is on loan, Evnit 100. Axel Twansebi will more than likely be captain. He's even captained as before, says Ronan Taylor. I'd be very, very, very surprised if Jesse Lingard is not the captain for Manchester United against Astana. But remember this game, it's a 4 o'clock kickoff UK time. We will be doing a watch-along. And to be honest, this is going to be, for me, one of the most exciting watch-alongs we've done this season. I mean, Villa's a massive game on Sunday, but in some ways, this is a free hit for Ollie. This is just, and it's a free hit for the fans, so we should enjoy it. It's a game that it really doesn't matter if we lose because it makes no impact on our Europa League table position. We have qualified. It's not going to impact on the weekend. We don't have to worry about game time because I don't think Shaw will start. I think this means that Brandon Williams, who's not even travelled, will definitely play at left back, so that's good. Lingard probably won't play either, and maybe Twansebi won't play. So there is no pressure on you've done that big plane journey and then you're going to play on Sunday. The last thing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have wanted, and this is where it's good that we've got through this group before today, is if we hadn't got through. For some reason we needed to go and win in Astana, and you've got to take Rashford and Martial and everybody 6-hour flight or however long it is to Kazakhstan to come back and then play on Sunday. We've got a very fresh team that's back in Manchester, so that looks good for Villa as well. But in relation to this game, really excited about it, and more than ever, there's no dead wood playing. There's no Mata, there's no Matic, there's no Jones, there's no Rojo, there's no players that you think, well, what are we learning from? We've got a whole team that we're going to learn something. I think it's great that Luke Shaw's back. It's another opportunity for Lingard. Twansebi's coming back, so it's just brilliant. And then you've got, like you say, you've got people like Pigmal and Ramazzini, Mella, Mengi. Maybe Taylor will get on. Everybody who comes off the bench is going to be somebody that we've never seen play in a United senior game before, and some of the starters are as well. So I'm excited by it. It's good. I think, as I said, from Ollie's point of view, it's basically an obvious thing to do, but it's a good thing to do. It's come at the right time. It just alleviates the pressure. It allows him to be, have a little bit of positivity around him for a change, and I'm looking forward to it. Probably going to be the youngest team we've ever put out, average age as well. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Most of them are going to be teenagers, which is interesting in itself. I also just want to bring something a little bit topical here, actually. I'm just remembered about this. So Ed Woodward did an interview, didn't he, a few weeks ago with the fanzine United We Stand, and he's basically said that he did say no to Mourinho a couple of times about transfers, and he's also said that sometimes there's a disagreement between the manager and the recruitment specialists, and it's my job as the decision maker to come down and say no to the manager, and that's what Ed Woodward said. Twansebi autocorrects to Tuna Zebra, his new name, says Cy Jones. Hilarious. And Michael Melrose says it's the youngest since the Busby Babes, and they're all my age, says Om Singh. And youth is the future of United, says Clements Coffee. Well, it's not. It's not. Let's not get carried away with this youth thing. You do need experienced players, and history shows you that. There is no team that's just been full of youth that wins things. So let's not get carried away that we don't need to buy players. We do need to buy players. But going back to that, about Woodward, it's very interesting because Woodward basically saying that he overruled Mourinho twice because his recruitment staff told him that Mourinho was going to make the wrong decision. So Woodward basically said no. It's very interesting that, isn't it? And I think this is the problem at Manchester United. This is why we need a director of football, because obviously, look, the reality is I think Mourinho wanted to sell Martial and United didn't want to sell him, and ultimately that was the right decision. But as I've said before, do you want a manager who's got total control, or do you want a manager that hasn't got total control? And to be honest with you, you want a manager that's got total control. I know that would have mean Martial going, and that was bad for us, but the manager's got to manage. You can't appoint a manager and then let them have 70% of the job. They've got to make the decisions. You've got to back them. And if you've got recruitment specialists telling a manager no, and then basically going to Teacher Woodward and saying, don't let him do this, don't let him sign them, that's not right. And who are these recruitment specialists at Manchester United? Because all I've heard Woodward say before is, our recruitment specialists have been here for over a decade. Well, I tell you what, the last decade of recruitment's been pretty shit. I think if you were to mark our recruitment over the last 10 years, at best, you'd give them a 6 or 7 out of 10. It's not been good over the last 10 years. I mean, 10 years takes you back to 2009, around the time Ronaldo went, which is around the time it got shit. I mean, Ronaldo went, Tevez went, and we brought Michael Owen and Valencia. We've not bought that well in the last 10 years, and yet Woodward talks about these recruitment specialists that he's got that have been here for a decade. They're not that good. So Woodward has absolutely admitted that Mourinho wanted to do something, the recruitment specialist said no, and Woodward sided with them and had to tell the manager no. Basically saying, those recruitment specialists have got lots of experience, and that's why I sided with them over Jose Mourinho. And he probably did it with Van Gaal, and he probably did it with Moyes, and he may well do it with Ollie. But this is the problem with Manchester United. He thinks he's being clever because he knows the story there is that, well, and guess what? One of the decisions was to keep Anthony Martial. Come on, Martial FC. Start chanting Woodward. Why are you being quiet? Come on. Martial should never have been sold by Manchester United. He's my favourite player at Manchester United. But he should have been sold because the manager should be allowed to have total control. And I would have gone mad about that. But the manager's got to have total control. Otherwise, what's the point? And this goes back to what I and many of you have been saying for a very long time. That club's run by the wrong people. The manager isn't allowed to manage. The club is run by too many people with too many fingers in its pies. And also, Ed Woodward, you're a banker. I think your Wikipedia page says accountant occupation. What are you doing making final decisions? Like, all right, you've got the head of scouting saying Mourinho wants to sign this player, we shouldn't sign him. You've got Jose Mourinho saying I should sign this player. You've got Jose Mourinho with his Wikipedia page of winning everything, basically. You've got the head of recruitment or whatever at Manchester United who's got a CV that's really good as well, right? And then you've got banker Ed Woodward in the middle. Today I'm going to come down on flip a coin, the head of recruitment. You're not getting your player, Jose. Like, this is what I mean. I'm not disrespecting the recruitment staff. I'm not disrespecting Mourinho. They've probably both got very, very good CVs in football. They've both got different opinions. This is where a director of football comes in and goes, I've got loads of experience. This time I'm going to go with Jose because I base this on football knowledge. You've got Ed Woodward going, well, they're telling me I don't do... it's ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And this is where the club's going wrong. And he's done that interview thinking he's going to come out really good. But actually, the manager should be allowed to manage. Ramazzini is definitely one to watch, says Ashley GR. I'd be very surprised if Ramazzini or Mella start because the front four positions for me are pinned down. It will be Gomez, it will be Chong, it will be Greenwood, and it will be Lingard because they're the four senior players in that very, very young squad. So it will be them. It's just like the same. Garner will definitely start because he's the most experienced midfielder, even though he's hardly played for the first team. And Twansibi's our most experienced centre-back. So hopefully we will see Ramazzini and Mella coming on because they are exciting young players. But I very, very much doubt that they will start because people like Chong and Gomez become almost like senior players because they've played for their senior team. Jadon Sancho, rumours are he is extremely unhappy at Dortmund, scapegoated in the Bayern game after 5 minutes. What are your thoughts, says Michael Merrow? Well, it's as I tweeted today, Michael. Manchester United think they're at the front of the queue for Jadon Sancho. If we're not in the Champions League in May, we'll be at the back of the queue because Sancho would be an idiot to come to United if we're not in the Champions League because that'll be 2 years in a row in the Europa League and that's consistent. And why would he want to do that when there will be Champions League clubs in England that want him who can pay for him? So again, I've said this before on this video, until United produce a signing or produce a new, renovation plan for Old Trafford, I'm not going to listen to stories about how they want to do this, how they're at the front of the queue for this player. It's all talk. We've had this for years, and last summer was the worst of the lot. Talk. We didn't even get a midfielder. It's a disgrace. So all this talk of Sancho, for me, it's Christmas time. Let's make people feel happy. And I don't agree. I don't believe that we're going to get Sancho because I don't care how much money we've got. I don't care how agreeable Sancho is to come here. If we don't have Champions League football, why would he come here? Why? It makes no sense. Why? Stability. There is no stability. So if we get Champions League football, I would hope we're in the conversation to get Jadon Sancho. But if we don't, I can't see it. Mark, would you swap Martial or Rashford for Sancho? Says Spock T. No. Well, I wouldn't swap Martial, and I wouldn't swap Rashford. I mean, I do like Rashford. I think he's got to find a lot more consistency than he's got. But I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. And I think Sancho's got the potential to be better than both. But I do have an element of loyalty to our players, especially the ones that I believe have got talent. You're looking fresh today, says Zaku. I've had a haircut. Thanks very much. what happened with Woodward and Sir Alex as LCT? A lot of people have been asking me about this. I don't know. To be honest, I think it was probably a load of nonsense. January window is propaganda for the mob. Don't be sucked in by the narrative, says Paul Robinson. Spot on, Mark. They need to take action on signings. If not, then I won't be listening to them either, says Stephen Diak. Look, I read something today from the Portuguese press that we're back in for Bruno Fernandes. And I could have just sent a message to the person who told me we were going to sign Bruno Fernandes last summer, but I'm not engaging in it. I'll do the transfer weeklies, I'll do the transfer dailies, and we'll talk about it. But personally, the United stand is not me. The United stand is all of us, and we've all got an appetite for things in a different way. Personally, I will never believe we're signing Bruno Fernandes until he's holding a United shirt up, and I don't expect that to happen. Same with Haaland, same with Sancho, same with Emre Can, same with bloody Mandzukic or whatever other shit we're linked with. I don't believe it until we hold a shirt up now, because I just think so much of it is paper talk, and so much of it is fed out there to just try and appease us. The reality is, I'll read you this out, right? Okay. After 13 games, this is our 4 worst seasons in the last... Well, 3 of them definitely are. I don't know whether the Mourinho one is. But after 13 games, right, this is our 4 worst starts to the season in the last 33 years. So, 1986, after 13 games, Ron Atkinson had 13 points and he was sacked. He was sacked on bonfire night. After 13 league games, he had 13 points in 1986. In 1989, we're back in 1989. Sir Alex Ferguson, give him time, get back to 1989. He had, in 1989, after 13 games, 20 points. 20 points Sir Alex Ferguson had back in 1989, and we ended up finishing 13th, I think. 1989. 2019, after 13 games, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has got 17 points. So we're not even back in 1989 now, because he's worse than that. He's got 3 points less than 1989. And last year, Jose Mourinho, after 13 games, had 21 points and was sacked a few games later. So this start to the season under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, 17 points after 13 games, is highly horrific for Manchester United. And statistically, it only is bettered by Ron Atkinson, who had 4 points less and was sacked. So it's an awful, awful start. An awful, awful start for United. And that's why Thursday, for me, almost is just a free... Well, it is. It's a free hit. It's a chance to just watch a game with no pressure, watch some of these young lads in a competitive game against Astana, who are not that good, but we only beat them 1-0 at Old Trafford. And if they're going to play their first team and we beat them, that's going to be massive for these kids. But I think it'll be tough. I think they will struggle. I think part of me, the problem is that we have a mix of players from 4 different managers, and for this to work under this ownership, we need to let Ollie buy in his new squad worth of players quickly, says Gordon Murray. You know what, Gordon? I'm just going to reply to that in a very simple way, because I know the live comments will say this. Saying that this team is a mixture of the four last managers is correct. Saying that the only way we fix this is by letting Ollie sell all those players and buy his own players in is logical. But the only problem is, would you trust, if that magic 400 million was there for Ollie, would you trust him with it? Do you think he is the right man to do the rebuild? Because that's the big question now. I want to do a video on this later in the week, but let's pretend that the Glazers and Woodwards are going to give him the money, which I don't think they will, but let's pretend they're going to give him 400 million, which I think is a starting point to rebuild this team. Is Ollie the right man to get that money now? I think in the summer, a lot of people thought, well, yeah, let's see. But I think his tactical naivety and the failure of this season, I mean, whatever you think about that squad, it's professional footballers that should be doing a lot better than where we are. And it is in the top 5 paid squads in world football. So he is massively underperforming, regardless of what the squad is, regardless of how much we need to spend. That team should not be where it is. It shouldn't be playing like it is. We shouldn't be playing 3 at the back with Phil Jones. So that's the question, whether if the money was there, Ollie's the right man to have it or not now. And I think that's the different thing, isn't it? I think for a long time we've been saying, will he get the money? No, he won't, but that he needs it. Whereas now I think people are saying, well, even if he did get the money, is he the right man? And that's how the story and the dialogue has changed. Because it's not just about, give him the money. It's about now, is he the right man? Opinion on Smaldini, Mark, says Ryan Fraser. I always liked Chris Smalling. All I said about Chris Smalling was he has definitely got a mistake in him, but he's the best third choice centre back in the league. He's not a starting centre back if you want to be in the top 6. And I know he's doing well for Roma, but that's a slower league. In the Premier League, he is not a starting centre back for a top 6 side, but he's definitely a first choice backup. So if you get an injury or a suspension, he can come in and do a job. I like Smalling. I've always liked Smalling as that. He's been very reliable for us under Mourinho. I remember around November time, we had loads of injuries. Smalling came in. We beat Watford away. We beat Arsenal away. Smalling was brilliant. He's done a good job for us over the years. For me, he should have been still at the club and not Jones. But, you know, I think maybe he's an ambitious guy who wanted to go. Maybe he was told he wasn't going to be used. I don't know. Anyway, we did the show early tonight at 7 o'clock because I'm doing Real Madrid versus PSG watch along on Champions League on That's Football at 8 o'clock. So if you want to join me for that, at 8 o'clock. We'll be live on there in about 25 minutes. But thanks everyone for watching. This is the Astana preview. Very exciting. Looking forward to that watch along on Thursday. Flex has now landed in Kazakhstan as well, so watch out for some of the content we've got coming up for you over the next couple of days. It's going to be it's going to get me feeling very Christmassy because it's going to be very, very cold and snowy. So I want him to get lots of pictures and build a snowman and all that lot. But exciting. I think we've got access to the training as well, so hopefully we'll be able to get you some close-ups on the young squad that's out there. Which a lot of these players you won't know who they are. So excited to see. Thanks for watching. Smash a like on the video. I'm very excited about this game now. And you know what? It's a little bit of a break, isn't it? Before the big games of next week, which are going to be huge. Mark, I don't trust this board, and Ollie, I don't think we're going to sign any players in January, says Sayed Ali. I think we will. I think we will sign in January. I think there's too much pressure on the club not to do that. I haven't dropped the link in the video description if you want to get your Christmas jumpers. I'm wearing a jumper that's not a Christmas jumper, but it is available. It was on the video I did last night, the link in the video description. But what I wanted to say is, if you want to get your Christmas jumper worldwide, I think the deadline's Friday. If you're in Europe and stuff, you still got a couple of weeks to order it. But if you want to get it worldwide, Friday is the day. So go to the video I did last night and get your jumpers. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Yeah, thanks for watching.